Hi there. Today is June 16th. It is the second week of the baking class. Today we went over quick breads and pies. We made a bunch of stuff, made rather a lot of things. And it's one of the things I'm noticing about this particular class more so than the basic class, that we're producing an absurd amount of food. And I think that's going to continue. Partially because there's only 10 people in class, give or take, and each day we're making enough for a dozen or so per person. So today I made a pie, and between me and this other girl, Emily, we made 75 blueberry muffins. So 75 blueberry muffins with 10 people is an absurd amount of muffins. That being said, so quick breads, breads that don't use yeast, they use chemical or some other kind of leavener. They don't take as long. They usually just sort of mix stuff together, and that's kind of how it works. So those are actually done second. We largely the biggest problem with quick breads seems to be over mixing, so I was a little worried about that. But no, turned out well. It really was just mix all together the dry stuff. This is the muffin method is you mix together the dry stuff, you mix together the liquid stuff, and you put them together and make sure everything's sort of moist, but you don't really want a smooth batter-like consistency. You're not looking for like pancakes or anything like that. And you bake them. End of fucking story. So there's that. I personally made an apple pie. Two other people made the doughs, so the bottom was a mealy crust pie dough. That means everything was mixed together much more and had a little less water added, and tends to be a little less flaky, a little more mealy. So that helps any. I made an apple pie, like I said. Had a little bit of trouble because I was trying to figure out a good way to slice apples, which apparently there isn't one. Yeah, until Carletta loaned me her apple core, and then it just became more like Frenching onions, which is much easier than the way I was doing it. Although I did still end up with like weird little bits of that apple core stuff, that weird membrane that's kind of woody. So I'm not sure how to do that. That isn't going to be like alarmingly inefficient. So if I was making a pie at home, I think I'd just take the time and cut all that stuff out. But that's useless if I'm going to try and sell these things. I mean, I'm going to spend an hour cutting up apples for a pie. But anyway, so I took the apples and sauteed them in some butter, a fair amount of butter, until they got kind of squishy. Then I added sugar to bring out the juice, and then mixed together cornstarch and water and added that, and let that kind of then boiled that till it thickened. Then added in the cinnamon, nutmeg, and all that kind of stuff, and more sugar actually, and more butter. Yeah. Then served that all up, set it aside, waited for the pie dough to get done, and started prepping for the muffins. Biggest thing with the pie dough, I was very conscious of the dusting flour, because I know that we don't want to have too much flour involved, otherwise you'll end up with too much gluten, and you'll end up with kind of a tough crust, which isn't good. I think I was a little too concerned about it, and I stuck a little on the mealy crust to the cutting board. Could have been the fact of using a cutting board instead of like something actually designed for that kind of thing. I also discovered that when you take the blob of dough, you sort of set it down and roll it out with your rolling pin, it becomes whatever shape is more or less the shape that you're looking straight down at. Which when you just sort of drop it on a thing, it's an amoeba, and trying to get an amoeba to be big enough that you can actually cut a big circle out of the damn thing is a pain. So that didn't work out. I dealt with it. It worked. Got a crust, but it could have kicked a little more ass. And in fact, it did actually, because the apple pie I made had a top crust. I didn't do the lattice thing. It actually was a whole crust. Yeah. whole top crust. So I used a flaky pie dough for that. That you cut in the shortening a little less for a flaky dough. That way it ends up being like flakes of stuff. I learned my lesson with the mealy thing, so luckily I got to do 2 of these in one day and realized, oh, this is stupid. At least it's all I did wrong. So before I did it, I put my hands in flour and patted this thing into a ball, and blow. And it wasn't a perfect circle when I was done, but it was much closer. It was at least round-ish as opposed to just this weird fractal thing, looking very Mandelbrot. So got that. Put on the top crust, tucked the ends, which I'd never done. Well, again, I never made a pie, so everything was technically a new thing. So laid it over, cut around the outside, leaving a bit of a ledge, I guess. Tucked it in, and did the little pokey thing to crimp the edges, or flute the edges. I think it was crimp. Yeah. That worked out well. It stuck, so... yeah, then baked it and stuck it in the convection oven. It was there for 20 minutes. Is that right? No, half an hour, sorry. The muffins were in for 20 minutes. So half an hour. Came out. Yeah, and it was pretty good. Actually, the small bit that I've had was fairly good. Everything gelled fairly nicely. Wasn't as for some reason, this is my personal preference. I like pies when you just slice them and do the thing and take them out, that they stay one piece. But I've only encountered a couple pies that were like that. Well, a couple apple pies that were like that, and they were like really starchy. Which makes the flavor a little weird, especially if you encounter little pockets of starch. So I think runny pie is just kind of the order of the day. Unless you chill it, I'm sure that would probably have a different effect. Yeah. So there's that. The muffins turned out, we made blueberry muffins, like I said. Copious amounts of blueberry muffins. Again, huge amounts of dry stuff, huge amounts of wet stuff put together to a psychotic amount of batter. Made 75 of these things. They were good. They probably could have used like either a little more lemon zest or at least a little lemon juice. You know, they weren't bad, but the quick bread part, the muffin proper part, it just kind of fell apart. You put it in your mouth and you eat it, and that's it. Okay. It's like eating a pancake that didn't have any vanilla or anything in it, so it was just sort of like, vaguely sweet bread. And that's the end of it. So it probably could use a little more lemon juice, I think. Or some lemon juice, actually, is probably the more appropriate term. Yeah, bung those in the oven. We took the muffins, dipped them in butter and sugar, so that they had a nice little sugar coating on the top. And that was that. Did a little plating. Very nice. And yeah, and that was the end of it. One guy made drop biscuits with sharp cheddar in. I haven't actually tried that yet. It looked neat, looked good. It looked better than the average drop biscuit. Looked better than my drop biscuits, which again isn't saying much. There's some standard buttermilk biscuits some were made with butter as the fat, and some were made with shortening. And the shortening ones were clearly much bigger. They blew up more, which is almost exactly what the book says would happen. There was a pecan pie. There was 2 pecan pies, I think. I didn't have any of those. A sugar cream pie that didn't really set up. A cherry pie with a lattice top. The lattice top looked very nice until you tried to cut it, and then the fact that their juice didn't really gel up was kind of apparent. A coconut cream pie, which was okay. Again, my apple pie. There was a key lime pie that I did not get a chance to taste. I think that's all for the pies. Blueberry muffins, biscuits. Currant scones. I haven't had any of those yet either. They're downstairs. And a currant soda bread, which was okay. Um, and there's some baklava made, but it took a little longer than expected, and didn't get done in time. So we're gonna have that next week. So we'll see how that goes. Um, yeah, all in all, I think it went fairly well. My pie turned out fairly good. I'm especially impressed considering I've never made a pie before. Um, at least never made a pie beyond mix stuff up, put in pre-made pie shell, put in oven, and hope for the best. I've made some custard pies in the past, which were absolute crap. Because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And that's kind of state of affairs. So really, anything that turns out in this class, I'm pretty impressed by, even if it's only kind of turning out. In light of the fact that I don't bake, and so yeah, so far so good. I haven't really encountered anything that I think I'm in a good situation in the fact that I don't bake, because I'm not trying to relearn things that I've screwed up over the past. I don't really have any sort of expectations when someone says, "Well, you do it this way." Here are the steps you take. I'm like, oh, okay. Because there's no conflict. There's no, well, I've always done it this way at home. And there's been no doing it at home, so it really does come out nicely that way. Next week we're making donuts and beignets and fritters and cheesecake, and we're all going to go into insulin shock, go into some sort of diabetic coma at the end of class, and yeah, I have a feeling at the end of this, I'm glad I'm taking this in the summer, simply because if this class was spread out over 16 weeks, I mean, we'd probably make even more things, a wider range of things, over a longer period of time, and I ended up really, really fat. So I'm kind of glad that it's just this, just 6 weeks of just getting kicked in the stomach with starch and fat and sugar. So that's that. Next week, like I said, next week is fried bread and cheesecake. So see how that goes. Till then.